But the advice makes clear that there are matters regarding discrimination law and a reasonableness of any direction made to an employee. And that reasonableness goes over 4 tiers, and all of this is explained through the Fair Work advice, which is available on the Fair Work website to assist employers. But ultimately, employers need to consider these matters and make their own decisions, remembering we do not have a mandatory vaccination policy in this country. We do not have that. We are not proposing to have that. That is not changing. But an employer may wish to make a reasonable directive to staff, and if they do so, they would need to do so consistent with the law. And that particularly would deal with a situation where an employee may be in direct contact potentially of becoming infected and acquiring the virus. And so they are workers who are working in quarantine facilities, obviously, which are covered by public health orders. Where there's a public health order, the legal position is very, very clear. But it may include people like airline workers or others in those situations where they are coming in close contact with those who may be carrying the virus. You have a second tier, which are those who may be working with people who are quite vulnerable. And that's why the consideration has been given to groups like aged care workers and others who are coming in close contact with people who are vulnerable. And it may be that a business would take a decision in that respect. A third tier are those who are in a position where they are public-facing in their daily work. So we're talking about retail, supermarkets, things of that nature, working in essential occupations where there's a lot of contact. Now, again, these are all legal positions which have to pass that reasonableness test, and they are ultimately decided by the courts. And employers need to obviously consider those matters very carefully if they're looking to make directions of that nature. Now, then you have the balance, who are those who may be public servants or those who are not in often close contact with others in the course of their work, and these basically work on a sliding scale, if you like, in terms of how the reasonableness test might be applied. That is the advice that we're receiving, and I'm sure employers who are considering these things would be also taking their own advice on those matters. The Solicitor General, though, did indicate that when it comes to issues of discrimination, then discrimination would relate to the discrimination laws, and so that would be in relation to discrimination against a person in relation to a disability, for example, or something like that. Now, it would be unlikely that a person being vaccinated or unvaccinated would be related to whether they are of a particular gender or whether they're of a particular disability or of a particular race or something like that. And these are the matters that is indicated to us that would have to be considered in making that judgment. Not having a vaccine is not a disability, but of course, if people do have particular medical conditions or issues that might prevent them from being able to be vaccinated, well, of course, that would be a different issue. So these are not being spoken of by me as any sort of direction, but to convey to you what was conveyed to Premiers and Chief Ministers today in our understanding of this situation and how we are seeking to simply make that information available, but ultimately their choices for the businesses themselves.